Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of Langerr at the Mic, our final Langerr at the Mic post-game show of the Montreal Canadiens regular season. And just like I'm back here in my Toronto studio, the Montreal Canadiens are back to losing games in overtime. And how poetic is it that they lose the final game of this really, really weird regular season in overtime? But the most important thing is that the Canadiens, they did make the playoffs today. So, or they made the playoffs by losing in overtime on Monday. What am I kidding? I'm losing my days here. And with the Winnipeg Jets winning 5-0 against the Vancouver Canucks last night, the Montreal Canadiens are guaranteed to play the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round of the playoffs. So, but am I going to get all mad and upset about the fact the Montreal Canadiens basically lost in overtime with an AHL team dressed tonight? No, because you had You had Jake Allen and Carey Price obviously not even dressed. You had Primo starting, and you had Charlie Lindgren backing up. You had Jesse Ylönen, who played in his NHL debut and played pretty interestingly well in his NHL debut. Had a shift on the power play, which was cool. He played only 11 minutes, but still had one shot on net, and that's it. But I still felt like he skated well and was in good position on the forecheck and in the offensive zone. And yes, that was interesting to see from Jesse Ylönen. You had Caufield with Suzuki and Armia, which we will get to a lot. We'll get into a lot here. And you had Willette and Gustafsson in for Joel Edmondson and Jeff Petrie. And they were okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know. This is just like a weird game. This is just kind of like a preseason game, which, again, we shouldn't really get too much into because essentially it's the Canadiens. Like this had no effect on the Montreal Canadiens in the standings. This had no effect on the Edmonton Oilers in the standings other than ending the season on a positive note, going to the playoffs. And I would say, you know what? The Canadiens ended the season on a relatively good note because they're young players that are supposed to be really, really good for a long time. Two out of the three of them were really, really good tonight, and that was Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki. The other one, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, I don't know, man. It was another rough game for Mr. Jesperi here. Although he did play 14 minutes, which, again, considering that this was an AHL lineup that was dressed, is kind of Trying to see who else played center here. Michael Frolik played center on the fourth line because, when you're dressing an AHL team, that's what happens. You have Michael Frolik and I guess drawing the straw of centering the fourth line there. So Michael Frolik, I'm looking for it. Yeah, so Frolik played 12 minutes. Kotkaniemi played 14. Suzuki played 17. Who was the other center again? It was Evans. Evans played 16. So honestly, as well as Evans has been playing, the fact that Deneau is out, the fact that they took out Eric Stahl, the lineup as well, and the fact that Kotkaniemi was still 14 minutes of ice time, I don't love that. I'm not really in love with that. And like I've said before, it's on the coaching staff to get Kotkaniemi the opportunity to succeed in positions where he is more likely to succeed in, but it's also on Kotkaniemi to play better. And a play that stood out to me early in the game here, and again, we're relating this to the playoffs because we're not going to overanalyze, Caden Primo, look, he played all right in this one. I mean, look, he didn't play awful, but he wasn't really a difference maker. He did go up 4 goals on 22 shots. And the overtime winner was a breakaway, and the first goal it looked like a bad one at first, but it pinballed a million times off Jake Evans. And then there was the goal on the power play, and the second goal on the power play where he should have kind of froze and controlled. He wasn't bad in this one, but he wasn't like he would have been the reason why the Montreal Canadiens would have won tonight. So that's all we'll say about Primo, and we already talked about Ylönen. Belzile was Belzile, I guess. Frolik was Frolik, and Gustafsson and Merrill, they should not be in the lineup, or at least Gustafsson shouldn't be in the lineup, because as Pierre Houd likes to say, he lèves les yeux a lot, or he lifts his eyes up a lot, and that causes him, despite him being one of the more offensively talented defensemen on the Canadiens, to talk about Eric Gustafsson here, he obviously should not be in the lineup in the playoffs, assuming everyone's healthy. And so we're not really going to overanalyze that, but we are going to get back to Kotkaniemi. And also one more thing is just really unfortunate that Pierre Houde and Marc Denis and even Dan Robertson and Brian Mudryk and Mike Johnson and Ray Ferraro, all those guys are not going to be calling any games anymore this season in the NHL, or at least for the Montreal Canadiens, especially for Pierre Houde and Marc Denis, because they do a fantastic job as commentators and color commentators. So anyway, that is what it is. So let's talk about, again, what we saw tonight as it relates to the playoffs. Well, so Kotkaniemi tonight, there was a particular play. First of all, what I liked about Kotkaniemi tonight was that he skated really, really well. And he played with decent effort. And there was a couple of good shifts where him, Tatar, and Perry did manage to maintain good offensive zone possession. But here's what I don't like about Kotkaniemi is that when one of the things that he had to improve on this year was trying to get more pucks to the net. Tonight he only had one shot on net, and he had a good couple others blocked as well. And then, so that's his shooting. When he's not feeling it, is like he stops shooting the puck on net and he starts trying to set guys up, trying to look for the perfect play. Whereas now that he's struggling, so he's not shooting as much. So now that he's looking for the perfect play, he's not always making the simple play. And there was one play that stood out to me early in the first period. It's a 3-on-2 where it's him, it's Perry, and it's Tatar. Kotkaniemi leads the rush. And in a situation where I don't hate the decision of him not shooting there because it's a 3-on-2, you're trying to make a play. But the problem is it was a 10-foot pass that he had to make to Corey Perry, and he missed it. Like, to me, as an offensive player, that's the one that you have to make, and he missed it. So, yeah, like Kotkaniemi going into these playoffs, man, it would be nice. Could the fresh start of the playoffs bring Kotkaniemi to another level? Maybe it could, but I don't know, man. I just don't like that Kotkaniemi his confidence just has been really thrown in the dumps by his play kind of dipping a little bit with Eric Stahl being acquired and getting those opportunities that Kotkaniemi was getting early in the season. But then also because of him getting less opportunities, his confidence went down. And because of less opportunities, his confidence going down, his play suffered as well. So, yeah, like it's tough to see that downward trend by Kotkaniemi, but he's still a young player and he could still figure things out. And players let players, players, some players take time to develop. They really do. And, you can look at guys like, look at Pierre-Luc Dubois in Winnipeg. You talk about Winnipeg, the Jets losing Nikolai Ehlers. Well, don't you think that if Pierre-Luc Dubois was as good as he was made out to be? And he still could be because he's also a very young player. But don't you think he would have maybe been a lot better for Winnipeg and helped them win more hockey games with Nikolai Ehlers going out? So Kotkaniemi has still plenty of time to bounce back. And also he's played 171 games in the same draft class, 2018. This is Jesse Ylönen made his NHL debut tonight as a second-round pick in 2018. Kotkaniemi was obviously the third overall pick that year. Jesse Ylönen has now just made his NHL debut, playing his first game tonight, whereas Kotkaniemi has around 171 games already in the NHL. So give the kid time to develop. Give the kid time to learn to become a better hockey player because he's still young and he'll figure things out. He'll figure things out. Just hopefully it's here in Montreal and not elsewhere. Because Alex Galchenyuk, he's kind of figuring things out in Toronto, wouldn't you say, right? But hopefully with Kotkaniemi, he figures things out here in Montreal, and not elsewhere. So with that being said, so also, like I said, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but Jake Allen won the Jacques Beauchamp Award for the most unsung hero on the Montreal Canadiens roster, and I think he fully deserves it, given how he had to be good or really at times stellar in Carey Price's absence. So much has been made of the fact that if the Habs lose Carey Price, or if Price doesn't play at the same level that he's capable of, the Habs are screwed. Well, Jake Allen made the Habs not completely screwed, and he basically backstopped the Canadiens to a playoff spot. So full marks, fully well-deserved for Jake Allen. And as usual, leave a comment in the comment section on maybe not so much on what your thoughts of tonight was, but maybe give me your thoughts on this upcoming matchup with the Toronto Maple Leafs. First one since 1979. I did a radio show here at CSM earlier today, and the things I would say that are most that stand out to me the most with this Habs-Leafs playoff series is the fans. The fact that there are not going to be any fans in the stands come playoff time, come the actual time of the games. But the fact that Twitter is going to just be a war on social media and on Twitter. So and I am all here for it as usual. Give me a follow at Mike Langerr. I'm not a fan that usually looks for trouble until I have a reason to. So I'm not one that, let's say if the Habs miraculously pull out a win in game one, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, suck it Leafs. Like, no. Like, I'm not like that, because then the Leafs could win their 4 next games. But let's just say if the Habs can somehow manage to pull off an upset in this first round against the Toronto Maple Leafs, well, I'll take my opportunity to talk my trash then. So yeah, so that's just the way I do it on Twitter. Again, follow me at Mike Langerr. So here's another exercise I want to do. Before a couple other notes I actually want to get to before that is so the Habs are actually pretty good in the faceoffs tonight. The Habs were good in the faceoff circle tonight. They won. That's the wrong game. The Canadiens, they won. The Habs, the Leafs are playing the Sens later tonight. But the Habs, they were 27 out of 61% in the faceoff circle tonight. Suzuki has been much better of late in the faceoff circle, and that is something encouraging going into these playoffs. But you can't have Suzuki losing offensive zone draws completely clean like he has in some games against the Leafs that have led to some goals right off the faceoff. So faceoffs, they were encouraging tonight. And Roger, I'll get to your comment there. Let's just hope the series is close and fun to watch. Honestly, I don't know if I really want a close series with the Habs losing, because that just means that all of our hearts get absolutely broken. And that means that changes might not get made that should get made. Like maybe Marc Bergevin wants to keep Dominique Ducharme, and I don't think he should keep Dominique Ducharme. And maybe even Marc Bergevin gets a job when you can argue, should Marc Bergevin get a job? I'm in favor of Marc Bergevin keeping his job. I'm just not in favor of Dominique Ducharme keeping his job. So honestly, if it's going to be a close series, I just hope the Habs win if it's a close series. And if the Habs are going to lose, just get like swept or lose in 5 games. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on that. Now let's do an exercise here that I didn't have an answer for. I did not have an answer for in last post-game show, the last stream I did after the Habs lost the Oilers in overtime on Monday, not tonight. So let's talk about our opening lineup for game 1, assuming everyone is healthy, and leave that in the comment section as well. Why not? So I'm going to go through my lineup right now in terms of what I think what I would do, and then I'll also do it in terms of what I think the Montreal Canadiens should do. So the way I have it is I'm reuniting Tatar, Danault, and Gallagher together because they have played together for the most part in, 3-4 years now. So even though Danault is hurt and Gallagher is coming back from a long injury absence, I would keep them together just because they're familiar with playing with each other. Then here's where I would mix things up. And I'll get, and Roger, I'll get to your comment there in a second. But Suzuki and Toffoli I'd keep together, but from what we saw tonight, Cole Caufield, if you're going to argue that Arturi Lehkonen should be with Paul Byron and Jake Evans, well, you have just as much argument, if not more of an argument, to have Cole Caufield with Suzuki and Tyler Toffoli tonight, in game 1, as you do to have Evans with Byron and Lehkonen. Because tonight, and I could throw in Roger's comment there right now. Perfect segue to it. Suzuki had 2 goals, no assists. 2 goals. Caufield had a goal and an assist, was +1. And they could have very well had 2 or 3 other goals on that line alone tonight. And I feel like Armia is just kind of like a passenger on that line. Although Armia did a really good job creating the turnover that led to that first goal, I feel like you could plug in anyone with Caufield and Suzuki, and Suzuki has been playing pretty well to Foley. So to me, you have the three right-handed shots on a just like a NASCAR Express scoring line with Toffoli, Suzuki, and Caufield. And Roger Suzuki ends the season as one of the Habs' best players, third in goals and in points, and one of four who played in every game. Should be teamed up with Caufield. Absolutely agree on that. Look, and here's something I want to do before the playoffs if I get around to it. Have a lot of things I'm working on the side before next week starts the playoffs. But I had Suzuki pegged in as the guy that would lead the Habs in scoring or in points for the season. And I'll have to go. I want to do a video where I recap that. I don't want to do that just yet, but I want to see if I could do a video to recap that. But I don't think I was that far off. I had Suzuki in like the 40-ish point range, and I think he finished pretty much there. So I'll be interested to compare the two. Bialahi, yes, Armia is not consistent. He plays well some games, but then it's flat. And I said this on Twitter. Armia is Andre Kostitsyn, and can he turn into a guy that is a force in the playoffs? Maybe. But when you have this many guys that can be in the lineup, not necessarily guys that can make a difference, but guys that can be in the lineup, you don't have time to deal with guys that are going to be passengers. So I feel like that's where I feel. So I'm going to talk about the rest of my lineup here. So I had Danault, Tatar, and Gallagher, of course, as my top line. Foley, Suzuki, Caufield is a second line. Now, here's where things get interesting. I would put Evans and Byron together, keep them together, but I would put Anderson on their right wing. And then I would put Kotkaniemi, Stahl, and Perry together as a third or fourth line. And here's why. So Josh Anderson has been a guy that's been struggling to score goals of late. But I feel like if you want Evans and Byron together, I feel like Lehkonen should be the odd man out because he's just, if you really watch closely these last two games, Evans has been the guy driving that line and Byron has been the guy finishing plays. Lehkonen did get the goal on Monday, but he's also the guy that I feel just kind of doesn't bring as much as Byron as Evans does, and Byron what he can bring. And also Byron has the A, and Byron is kind of a coach's pet. So I don't see Byron really coming out of the lineup in favor of, especially if you're talking about other guys. So I'd say Byron is staying in the lineup, but I would take Lehkonen out of the lineup because he is the guy that, in terms of a team that over the course of the season has struggled to score goals, Lehkonen is a guy that just, even though he has scored a couple of goals recently, I just don't see him bringing as much to the table as Evans and possibly not as much as Byron, at least in terms of also what Byron can do in a shutdown role. So I would have Evans, Byron, and Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson, who has also kind of struggled to score goals, but he's a guy who could skate and hit and forecheck, and he's obviously a leader on this team. So he's not coming out of the lineup, of course. And I would put Kotkaniemi with Stahl and Perry because if you're talking about a guy who's struggling in terms of his confidence, let him play with guys that have been in the playoffs before, that have been in Kotkaniemi's position before, and another guy that can take faceoffs. So in my lineup here, you have Danault, Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, Stahl, and Evans that can all take faceoffs. But I have Stahl on Kotkaniemi's wing, and you can also put Kotkaniemi's on Stahl's wing. And the reason why I have Stahl in the lineup, because you all can call me out on that, but the reason why I'm keeping Stahl in the lineup is because in the playoffs, experience matters. And Stahl has 21 career playoff goals. And I remember, like I said, a certain Daniel Briere in a Game 7 against the Boston Bruins in the 2014 semifinals, Eastern Conference semifinals. Daniel Briere had a goal and assist in Game 7. And also Daniel Briere had 2 assists on 2 overtime winning goals that the Canadiens had in that 2014 playoff run. So that's why I would have Stahl, give him a chance in the lineup. And obviously, if he doesn't do much, well, then you have on these guys, like I said, the same way that you can't have passengers in this lineup in these playoffs, as soon as guys start to falter, you got to take guys out of the lineup. And I haven't mentioned the D-men yet. That's pretty simple. because you're going to have these 6 guys in no matter what. So it's going to be Edmondson, Petrie, Kulak, Weber, and Sherratt are all going to be in the lineup. But I would put Kulak with Weber and Sherratt with Romanov, although the coaching staff, what they'll probably do is Sherratt with Weber and Kulak with Romanov, or maybe even Kulak with Merrill. What's going to happen is probably Tatar, Danault, Gallagher, Suzuki, Toffoli, Anderson, Evans, Byron, Lehkonen, and Stahl, Perry, and Caufield or Kotkaniemi. But here's the thing. I would rather win or lose with guys that are going to be on the Canadiens roster for years to come than guys that are rental players. So that's why if it comes down to taking guys in out of the lineup, I want to see Kotkaniemi and Caufield stay in the lineup and take out Stahl and take out maybe Lehkonen or maybe a Yoel Armia instead of a Stahl and Perry. Well, Perry is going to stay in there, but instead of a Stahl, instead of a Lehkonen or whatnot. So that's pretty much all I have here right now. Let's get to your comments in the comments section. As usual, give me a big thumbs up on this video. Leave a comment in the comment section. I got Roger Delaney agreeing with my lineup there. Hope Dom does as well. And I don't know if Dominic Ducharme is going to agree with any of our lineups, but that's another story. B. Elahi, I'm more worried with the D-men. They don't look confident in their own zone as well. They don't help offensively. Keep in mind, though, B. Elahi, keep in mind that tonight you had Merrill and Gustafsson in the lineup tonight, and Romanov in essentially a top 4 role tonight. Romanov played, what was it? Where is his ice time? I can't find the guy's ice time when I need it. Romanov played 17 minutes tonight, and he was a 0-0-0 and a +2. So zeros in terms of shots, and had only 1 block shot, and surprisingly had no hits tonight. I think that's false because I saw him throw his body around at least once or twice, Romanov, tonight. I think Romanov played a pretty good game tonight. I feel tonight was more an issue of just the Habs got in penalty trouble and goaltending couldn't bail them out. Primo was okay, but he wasn't good enough to bail the Habs out enough times to win. So to me, I actually kind of like the way the defense played tonight. And if you're going to have Romanov not play as much, and if you're going to have a rested and fresh and healthy Shea Weber, I wouldn't, and even with Ben Sherratt, I would not hate to see that. But here's the thing. You got to have a short leash. And as soon as guys start to falter, whether it's the first shift, whether it's after the end of game 1 or the first shift of game 1, you have to have a short leash on these guys. And that's where I don't trust the coaching staff is I don't know if they're going to have a short leash on this one. And yeah, as usual, again, leave a comment in the comment section. What do you think your lineup is going to look like or in game 1? And I'm talking, I want to hear your suggestions because we all know what the coach's suggestions are going to be or what the coach's lineup is going to be. So I want to see your suggestions in the comment section. And yeah, honestly, I want to make another video, like I said, kind of breaking down my predictions from compared to the beginning of the season and at the end of the season in terms of how guys did. I got another comment here from B. Elahi. DD needs to talk with veterans like Stahl, Tatar, Armia, and tell them that they need to pick up their game or else they will sit out. And Tatar is an interesting case here. Thomas Tatar is a very interesting case because he's a guy that is one of your most offensively skilled players, but when he is ineffective, like when he's not scoring or getting assists, he is completely invisible. And Tatar tonight, even, and again, in a game where they were dressing an AHL team, I mean, look, he played 15 minutes tonight, but he played like 11 minutes the other night. So Tatar, I feel like, has been a guy this year when Danault and Gallagher have been doing well. Tatar has been has been very much involved in the success of Danault and Gallagher when they've been playing well this year. But when guys have struggled to score, and when Danault has been, and especially Danault has still been dealing with the monkey on his back of not scoring, then Tatar was also kind of invisible. Although I don't think he should have been a healthy scratch per se when in that game against the Leafs back in January or February. Yeah, February it was. I still feel like Tatar is a guy that you need to keep in the lineup, but he's a guy that if he starts being invisible, then you got to take him out of the lineup and have a short leash on him. So, yeah. That's pretty much it here on this Habs post-game show on Langerr at the mic. It's only 8 o'clock. We have our whole evening in front of us. How often is it that we get to watch a Habs game at 5 o'clock on a weeknight in May that isn't a playoff game, that in the broad of daylight, summer, nice sun, and 17 degrees, at least here in Toronto? How often do we get to experience that? Never. So, I guess let's enjoy. It was an interesting experience for sure, but thank you so much, as usual, for joining me here on this Habs postgame show, this final Montreal Canadiens postgame show of the regular season. Obviously, I'll be here in the playoffs. Bialahi wasn't impressed with KK's game either today. Thought he would pick up his game today since the game was meaningless. And I like the way he skated. I like the way Kotkaniemi skated. But again, just in terms of his play with the puck, has to be better in his game in terms of deciding when to shoot and when not to shoot. Has to be better. But yeah, that's all we have here. Leave a big thumbs up. Give me a subscribe to my channel here. Give me a follow at Twitter, at Mike Langerr on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. At Mike Langerr for all three. And thank you, as usual, so much for joining me this entire season for all 56 games of my Langerr at the Mike post-game show, Habs post-game shows here. And thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you next time in the playoffs. Go Habs, go.